I don't know about you, but seafood, carbs, and cheese go hand in hand. Now, let me show you how I do my seafood au gratin potatoes. So, first, we're going to get started with 5 large potatoes. This was more than enough for me, and it's just my husband and I. You want to make them as thin as possible because you don't want the potatoes to take too long to cook, so slice them very, very thinly. So after we chop the potatoes, we're going to set our oven to 425, all right? But before we pop our stuff in the oven, we want to partially cook our potatoes. We're doing that because we're using seafood, and seafoods, shrimp and scallops in particular, cook really quickly. So we don't want to risk overcooking them because the potatoes aren't cooked all the way. So partially cook your potatoes. Make sure you salt that water. It should taste like seawater. So salt that water, boil those potatoes for about 15 minutes, and we're going to thinly slice some white onion. White onion has a sweeter flavor that complements the seafood. So I have some colossal shrimp that are deveined, and I just deshelled them. I'm cutting them into bite-sized pieces, and we're going to pop this in our casserole or au gratin potatoes raw. Okay, we don't want to partially cook these at all because the potatoes are going to spend about 20 minutes in the oven, so we don't want to risk overcooking our seafood again. And I'm using some scallops, and I'm just cutting the bigger ones into, bite-sized portions. After that, we're gonna go in with some imitation crab meat. I personally like it. You can also use real crab meat if you like, but mama's balling on a budget, so I went all out for the shrimp and the scallops, and I'm gonna do the imitation crab meat. Now I am burning my hands trying to test the consistency of our potatoes. You want to make sure they're bendable. You want to make sure they're pliable. That's how you know they're ready to go in the oven. You don't want them to be stiff. But when you bend them, you don't want them to break in half either. Okay? So my potatoes were done, took them off the oven. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of garlic, and I'm just sauteing them over the stove. And then I'm going to go in with my seasonings. I'm doing 2 teaspoons of thyme, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and I'm adding red pepper flakes. Add as many or as little as you like with the red pepper flakes. Control the heat. Now I'm using half and half. You can definitely use whole whipping cream if you like, but half and half is all I had in my fridge. I put 2 tablespoons of flour in a bowl and added a half a cup of I added a full cup of half and half and mixed that, and then added it to my pot, which contains 4 cups of half and half. Okay, if you use 5, that's fine too. All right, so now I'm just adding seasoning. I'm adding about 3 to 4 teaspoons of Creole seasoning, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. And that's it for my milk base. I'm going to let that come to a simmer because I want to see the consistency that it has before I add the cheese, because cheese will thicken up your sauce. I'm adding a half a cup of Parmesan cheese, grated, and then I'm adding 5 ounces of a 4 cheese blend, and it has like Asiago, Parmesan cheese, that has some other cheeses. I have to look at the container, but use any cheese you like. All right, and now I'm just gonna start layering everything, adding the potatoes, adding the onion, adding the seafood, adding the sauce, then repeating the process. And as you can see, 5 little potatoes filled up a whole tin pan that to the point is overflowing. So I had to mix it around a little bit so that sauce could kind of like melt or drip to the bottom of the pan, so it can, spread nicely and evenly throughout the dish. So use a bigger pan. If you don't, this pan will work fine. But I'm wrapping it with some Reynolds wrap because I want that steam to kind of like cook through my potatoes and get them nice and soft. I have it in the oven for about 30 minutes. You want to cook your potatoes for about 30 minutes and then take it out the oven. And I'm waiting for the video to kind of like speed up, so bear with me. But anywho, I took my potatoes out of the oven after 30 minutes, and they're cooked through. They're nice and soft and beautiful. As you can see, those bright orange chunks of what is that? The shrimp is definitely starting to come through. That's how I know that everything is cooked on the inside. I'm now going to go in with some panko crumbs and sprinkle the top, because I love some crunch when it comes to my au gratin potatoes. It's so good. So, I mean, you can just eyeball this. As you can see, I just took it out the container and just sprinkled it on top until I felt like it was enough. So you can definitely do the same thing. There's no specific measurements for this. I know some people love panko more than me and might want to add more. Or if you might not like it that much and you just want to add a little bit. You're the cook. You're the chef. You put as much as you want. All right, so I'm just covering the entire top in a thin layer of panko crumbs, and then I'm gonna go in with some like the 4 cheese right here, the 4 cheese blend. Love this stuff. So I'm gonna go in with that and sprinkle it on top of the panko crumbs, because why not? I don't like having used items just open in my fridge. I don't know, it's just a pet peeve of mine. So I try to use up all of my ingredients if I'm using it for just one dish. So I'm using the rest of the cheese right on top, because I don't want it in my fridge. And then we're gonna put it back in the oven, still at 425, for about 10 minutes until the top gets nice and golden brown. And feel free to add butter chunks on top. That'll help spread out the goldenness. But I figured this dish was already kind of fattening enough, so I just opted not to do the butter. But if you want it to be super pretty and more evenly browned at the top, put some chunks of butter at the top. And now I'm just sprinkling some parsley for color. You know, that's it. So I can take some pictures. And then that's it. So let's dig in. Let's try to cut into this. Ooh. It smells so good. Ooh, look at that. Looks beautiful. Yes, so it is a wrap for me. This was so delicious. My husband loved it so much. I can't even front. It's so good. So if you like this video, please give me a like, subscribe, and leave any comments down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.